Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Sunday, the 30th of June, 2024. My word, we're halfway through the year. We are halfway through the year. How you all doing in the chat there? We've got Katrina, we've got Benjamin, we've got Terry Regan, we've got Lofty the Softy, we've got Ben in there as well. We've also got Roger and Vortex Lisa. Hey, Vortex Lisa, how you doing? And Tim is in there, who's getting a mug. You're getting a mug, Tim, because he bribed his way to the top of the leaderboard last night for the nice and sleazy politics quiz, which might be worth a rewatch, actually, because there's a lot of stuff in there that was, a bit eye-opening, especially for fans of the Tory party, which I don't think there's going to be too many of them here. But anyway, this is Morning Brew. I'm Graham Hughes. You're watching Politics Social, and we're going to dive into, is Nigel Farage a Russian asset? And I know that you know that I know that what the answer is to this, but we don't want to get sued, so we have to make it a bit of a question. Like, is he? Let's look at the evidence. Let's look at the preponderance of evidence. This is a man who has repeatedly praised Vladimir Putin, blamed the EU for Vladimir Putin's invasion of Crimea, blamed the West for Vladimir's further incursion into Ukraine, which has cost the lives of over 100,000 men, women and children in Ukraine. It's absolutely leveled cities like Mariupol and absolutely devastated the lives of millions who have had to either flee or have had some family member die horribly as a result of Putin's ego and imperial ambitions. The only people who defend Putin are people generally on the hard right or the hard left. And we go back to the horseshoe theory of politics, where if you get so far on the left, you actually, like Pac-Man, come out on the right, and vice versa, which explains things like, Claire Fox and Russell Brand and other people who, extremists on the edges of politics who call people like me, ooh, you centralist, you bastard. Well, yeah, it's a centralist who win power, mate. So, enjoy being a fringe party on the outside, pissing in. So, Katrina, how you doing? Hi, Graham, have some money, says Katrina Tam. Thank you so much, Katrina Tan. That is very kind of you this early on a Sunday morning. So, we've got one angry pagan in the chat. How you doing, mate? We've got Mr. Barrister John Warosa. A Russian asset. Lols, says Mr. Barrister John. What a strange name. I've actually got coffee this morning, which you've made, being a barista. Got my special Glastonbury mug, because, it's Glastonbury this weekend. And I didn't get a ticket, but on the bright side, who was headlining? Coldplay. Okay, moving on. Just free preference a sentence with allegedly, and you're golden. That's what Ian Hislop says anyway. Yes, I'm stating this without any evidence whatsoever. Also, Nigel Farage, in the run-up to the 2016 referendum campaign, he met with the ambassador for Russia many times and lied about it. Why would he lie? I don't know. His campaign, the Leave.eu campaign, was part funded by a guy called... Shit, I forgot his name. Not Aaron Banks. There you go. Hey, come on. Still early. Give me a break. I don't have an auto cue here. Having a Biden moment. Yes, anyway, Aaron Banks donated £7 million, the provenance of which money we never found out where it came from, because he made sure that his company was registered in the Isle of Man, and he had a loophole that he didn't have to declare where the money came from to the Electoral Commission. Both Vote Leave and Believe, and also, Believe and Leave.eu, that was it. Leave.eu, Believe, and the official Vote Leave campaign, which was Gove and Boris Johnson, all overspent massively. They all lied during the campaign. They all used illegally procured data for people to target them with ads that said that the EU was going to kill all the polar bears and take away your cup of tea. They're going to force you to drink coffee against your will. The bastards. And Farage was, I don't want to do the expression that I'd normally do. He's very deep into this whole thing. And his admiration for Vladimir Putin should come as no surprise, because there are a lot of right-wing grifters, multimillionaires, banks at Coots, someone who went to private school. He went to Reigate private school. Was it Reigate? No, it wasn't. Sorry, that was Keir Starmer. What private school did Nigel Farage go to? There you go. There's a question for you in the chat. 1.5 billion ads, says Gary Arnold. I don't know if that's for this campaign or for the last one, but yes, they put out a lot. They flooded the zone, as they say in the tech world. I won't do that again. Sorry. Anyway, so but move forward through the Brexit pain that we went through when he changed the name of UKIP to the Brexit Party. He had this embarrassing moment where they all turned up, him and that absolute harridan, Anne Widdecombe, Jesus, who they turned up and they turned their back on the anthem of the European Parliament, on Ode to Joy. They turned their back on it for some reason, because they're children. I don't know, nothing matters to them. And one of the quotes that always sticks with me from that period was an attributed quote. I think it was to the Russian ambassador in London that said, the British, thanks to Brexit, the British are on their knees and they will not rise again for a very, very long time. I'm paraphrasing there. I don't know exactly what he said. I don't know even if he actually said it, but that's what was reported. So Farage very much in with the Russians, it looks like. And let's face it, who benefits from Brexit? And I'm not going to turn this into a whole Brexit is shit for the next half hour rant, but Brexit is shit for the working class. It's shit for most of the middle class. But for those middle class graspers at the top of the bracket, the neo-aristocracy, the privately educated, it's fine. Doesn't affect them. You have to understand this. It doesn't affect them. They can still go and live and work anywhere they want in Europe. Farage's kids can go and live and work anywhere in Europe. They literally have German passports. They have European passports. Tommy 10 names, Steve Laxley Lennon, turns out he's an Irish citizen. He has an Irish passport. He can live and work anywhere in Europe. Not in Canada, obviously, but anywhere in Europe. Well, anywhere you'd want to work. Obviously not Belarus because it's not part of the EU. But, 31 other countries, you can go and live and work in them. No questions asked. You don't need money in your bank account. You don't need to buy a visa to live there or work there if you are a member of the EU. And if you have enough money, it's peanuts. If you don't have the money, it's a lot of money. What Nigel Farage and his horrible mates have done is said it is going to be too expensive for anyone to buy a house now unless their parents cark it or their parents give them their house. Absolutely impossible to get on the housing ladder for 95% of the population. And then, as an added bonus, we're not going to let you leave. Nice. You wonder why homelessness has gone up through the roof? You wonder why the number of food banks has gone from a few dozen to a few thousand? You wonder? You don't, do you? You know why. Because these scumbags have been in power now for 14 years. And Nigel Farage is there at the sideline saying, be more horrible. Be more horrible. Is the problem that we can't get housing or see a doctor or why our roads are the state they are? Is it because of lack of funding? Is it because we're not building any new houses to keep the house prices down? You see, because if we built lots of houses would still be the same price they were 2010, right? But we haven't got enough houses, so any houses get snapped up really quick. This is called manufactured scarcity or induced scarcity, which means that the products that you have, there's not enough to go around. Who does Nigel Farage blame this on? Immigrants. Who absolutely gets off on this? Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin, who, let's not forget, not only invaded Georgia and Ukraine and murdered shitloads of people, he also has his troops and his people, his Wagner group, his mercenaries, his paid killers, his paid assassins, his people who are usually prisoners, who are paid money by the Russian government to go to someone else's country and kill the people in that country in 24 African states, destabilizing them to the point where we get refugees coming across the Mediterranean Sea into Europe. Why does he want to manufacture a machine that creates refugees into Europe? Why? Because he knows it's destabilizing, and he knows that when people go out and they can't get to see the doctor and they can't buy a house, and then you've got populists like Nigel Farage saying, oh, it's all the fault of these people coming from Africa and the Middle East. It's all their fault. They're taking your space. They're jumping the queue. There is no queue. The fact is that, we need people to come from other countries because we certainly aren't having enough children ourselves because of people like Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson and all these horrible, nasty, Nazi, feckless millionaires who have made it impossible for the vast majority of us to have kids. And that is the cruelest part of all. And anyone who supports Farage needs to understand this. He is part of that machine. He is part of Putin's plan to flood the West with his propaganda, his lies about immigrants, and then flood it with immigrants. Oh, probably at the same time. And what happens? We run to the right. We run to the arms of the populists with their simple solutions to complex problems. With Nigel Farage saying, I'll just net migration. Net migration would be zero under me. I'm like, net migration will be zero. Are you having what? How can you think for a moment that net migration is going to be zero and that is going to work? Because it's genuinely not. And when he's questioned about it, when people say, how is that exactly going to work, Nigel? He never has an answer, does he? He never has an answer. Because you say, well, are we going to stop the nurses coming? No, not the nurses. What about the care workers? Are we going to stop care workers? No, not the care workers. Okay, are we going to stop the train drivers coming? No, we're not going to stop the train drivers. And you go for all the different professions. You can do this with Nigel Farage. You can do it with any petty racist. And go, well, who don't you want? Because they can't say it. They just don't. They want people to come here, but they just don't want them to come here and not look like us. But then these are the same people who took us out of the EU as part of a master plan to separate the UK from the rest of Europe, a master plan that was written down in black and white in 1997 by Alexander Dugin in his book, The Foundations of Geopolitics, which you can read. I mean, it's translated into English, but yes, you can read it. It's quite something. Okay, so what have we got? I'm going to jump into the chat for a moment before I go on. Reminds me of Lord Hawthorne. Remember, Lord Hawthorne reminds me of Mr. F. The brave Sir Robin. Any statement Farage makes is about as truthful as my statement that I can fart Nessun Dharma in G. Well, I know you can fart it in F, so, indeed. Sunak referred to the dream of owning a house. Yeah, what an absolute shitbag that man is. Good morning, everybody's. That's from Sir Larry the Cat. Hey, Sir Larry, how you doing? I hope you're well. Boris Johnson has picked up slack on the child front. Yes, I mean, he's got so many children, he's lost count. Because he's a feckless millionaire and nothing he ever does has consequences. And that is the difference between us and them. When we do something, when we fuck up, it has genuine consequences for us and the people in our lives. We can't afford to do that. They can. They can mess up as many times as they like. Doesn't matter. They will still land on their feet. They will still be millionaires in the morning and people will forgive them. Because they're offering simple solutions to complex problems. This is Nigel Farage, who, I mean, he might not be a Russian asset, but if he was, would he behave differently? What would he do differently if he was a Russian asset? He appeared on Russia Today numerous occasions, once with a moustache for some reason. He met up with the Russian ambassador and lied about it. He blamed the West for the invasion of Ukraine. He thinks Putin, a man who has threatened the West with nuclear obliteration on more than one occasion, is simply misunderstood. And people are going to vote for this creep. Because, look, I get it. I'm not one of those who says that everyone should vote. I'm not one of those who thinks that everyone should be involved in politics. If you don't care about politics, that's fine with me. That's your vote, is to not care about it. But it's the people in the middle. It's the ones that do care about it, and they vote. But they don't want to actually think about it for a moment. They're too lazy to think. So they get populists like Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage to think for them. And here's the thing, right? Nigel Farage isn't alone with this. You look at Tucker Carlson, who went over to Russia to do that tummy-tickling interview, the disgusting interview that he did with the dictator Vladimir Putin, who has the blood of millions on his hands. He went over and did that interview. Said, I love you. And even Vladimir Putin said, that was a bit softball afterwards. Probably in Russian, with a Russian accent. But you get the gist. But people Trump called his little henchman, Boris Johnson, Britain Trump. Here's the difference, right? Boris Johnson, when he saw the way the wind was blowing, he switched sides suddenly from his friends in the KGB, who he used to go partying with. He used to go to sex parties with. He used to go to orgies with these people I know that's a horrible thing to think about on a Sunday morning. He used to go to orgies with them in Italy, in this amazing villa that he went to without a security detail, but with top secret documents from NATO. If you did that, imagine for a moment you worked for the government and you went to an orgy with a KGB agent. It was hosted by a KGB agent. Even better. His dad's, still a Putin admirer, fan. And his dad's sanctioned individually, by name, by Alexander Lebedev, sanctioned by the Canadian government, one of the Five Eyes. Imagine you were a civil servant, you took top secret documents from NATO, international NATO, and you took it to an orgy that had Russians there who had worked or were working for the KGB, FSB, whatever it's called these days. Imagine what would happen to you. I'll give you 2 words. Julian Assange. There you go. There's your 2 words. That's what would happen to you or me. But these motherfuckers, no consequences. Nothing. Not even a slap on the wrist. Boris Johnson, Nigel Farage, and Trump, the whole lot of them, Tommy 10 names, they should all be in jail for the rest of their miserable, stinking, godforsaken lives. And yeah, I'll say if Nigel Farage isn't a Russian asset, he's doing a very, very good impression of being a Russian asset. Anyway, into the chat. Cathal Farage has dunked, I can't read, has ducked a Kunzberg interview. Yes, because he's a coward and he hates people talking to him. Badger. This is Brock the Badger. Hello, Brock. The kids have a different name for him, but for reasons I can't tell you what that is. So we're going to call him Brock. Great show, Graham. Thank you very much, Plumduff. Oh, that's so nice. I had someone in the chat last night when we were doing the quiz going, Graham, you're too shouty and annoying. I'm not going to watch you anymore. I'm like, okay. You know what I'm like, don't you? This is the wonderful thing about me and my partner, Catherine, because we used to go to school together. So every time I annoy the crap out of her, I could just shrug and say, because like, we've known each other for 25 years. And I'm like, you knew what you were getting into. You knew what you were. Sorry, 29 years. You knew what, this should come as no surprise. I'm not a wallflower. Put it that way. Brexit was a Russian thing. Aaron Banks, Russian embassy, and cash. Yes, Sargon, you're absolutely right. And it was predicted, well, called upon to happen by Alexander Dugin in the 1997 book, Foundations of Geopolitics. He wanted it to happen because, he's a scumbag. I don't know what more you want me to say about it. Right, so I was going to try and find actually the video that I did about Putin and Nigel Farage and the lengths, the depth of Russian involvement in this disgusting what do you call it, like Putinist agenda. Let's call it the Putinist agenda, which is, it's not great, is it? It's not great. It's not a good look. Let's put it that way. I just typed in Russian because I know that the video is called Russian interference, and it seems that I've done a lot of videos that use the word Russian in the title of them. Oh my god. Okay, I'm going to type in Russian interference. Do you know what though? It might not come up. It should come up for me because it's my channel. Would help if I could spell Russian interference. Oh shit! It's not coming up. You bastard! You insufferable bastard! Nothing worse than watching someone type something to search for it on their YouTube channel or on Google or whatever. Actually, there is having to watch that debate with President Biden on Thursday night. I think Friday morning. The wee small hours of Friday morning. I think that was worse. That was a little tiny, minuscule little bit worse. Anyway, so search across your channel. Oh my God, there's nothing coming up. Okay, what? Oh, here we go. Brexit and Russian interference. Okay, right, my little petals. We're going to have a look at this video that I made back in 2017. Do you want to have a look at that? Do you want to watch that? If you really don't want to watch it, you can say now and forever hold your peace, and I will not hold it against you. But if you do want to watch this, if you've not seen it before, it might be a bit of an eye opener. I don't know. It might be a bit of an eye closer. I don't know. It might be boring. It's only 1 minute and 52 seconds long. Yeah, I'm sorry for the bit of a shock of the giant Graham that's about to appear. Did you see Farage being knighted on RT? Oh my God, no, I didn't. But that wouldn't have surprised me one little bit, my friend. That sounds absolutely horrific there. I realise I can see a little bit of the edge of my green screen. So there you go. I've sorted that out. Don't worry, fixed it. Technical problems. That is obviously the thing set up for tomorrow's papers today, but I'm going to change it to me instead. Hello, Graham. Say hello to Graham, everyone. Okay, let's do this. Let's have a little bit of a listen to what Graham from 2017 had to say about Russian interference.
Something else we discovered were the depths of Russian involvement in election and referendum meddling last year, an involvement which was as jaw-droppingly brazen as it was successful, typified by Natterjack Toad reflected in a doorknob Nigel Farage's many appearances on so-called news service RT or Russia Today. And that time he was spotted visiting rumoured sex pest, hard-left darling, alt-right icon and fellow Russian stooge Julian Assange under cover of broad daylight.
I did meet Mr. Assange this week, and can I just say to those out there who are becoming wildly conspiratorial, it was nothing like that.
It all plays out spookily similar to The Foundations of Geopolitics by Alexander Duggan, a political handbook from 1997 for getting Russia back from being a hilarious basket case with no potatoes to being important on the world stage again. It's so popular amongst Russian speakers that the Speaker of the Russian Parliament urged it to be made a compulsory part of the school curriculum, along with living in constant fear of being sent to Siberia, ratting on your neighbours, and group masturbation sessions over pictures of their supreme Uber group of Führer roaming around shirtless on a horse.
It gets loud.
Ahem. Georgia should be dismembered, Abkhazia and United Ossetia to be incorporated into Russia. Check. Ukraine should be annexed by Russia. Check. Russia should use its special services within the borders of the United States to fuel instability and separatism. Russia should introduce geopolitical disorder into internal American activity, encouraging all kinds of separatism and ethnic, social and racial conflicts, thus destabilising internal political processes in the United States. Check. Oh, here's my favourite bit. The United Kingdom should be cut off from Europe. Check. And mate.
Well, there you go. So that was 2017, and I stand by it. Sorry about this. It's until the advert now. Shut up. Advert. Yes. Zips on the shirt. Cool. Says Philip. Is that what you took from that? That's a Mussolini moustache. I thought it might be an Adolf one. No, that different flavour of fascist. Graham looks so different without his hat. Hello, past giant Graham. Were you on speed in 2017? That was the time you started calling the Labour leader Jeremy effing Corbyn. Yes, I wasn't on speed. I should be, possibly, because I've obviously got ADHD, but no, I can't get hold of it. Conversion with a local lady. I converted her to our church. Conversation with a local lady, this is from Uncle Heavy, a few days ago. These immigrants haven't paid in, but they get free NHS treatment. My reply, how much have your 3 young children paid in? Well, exactly. Looking young there, Graham. Oh, thank you, Plum Duff. I thought I also looked quite young in that video that I just played. Anyway, right? Should we do the papers? Should we do the newspapers now? Do you want to do the papers? These are the Sunday papers. We don't normally get to do the Sunday papers, so this is quite exciting. Well, it's not really that exciting, but let's do it anyway. So here we go. First of all, we've got the Sunday People with "It's All to Play For," Labour and England. So hopefully England will win today against Slovakia or Slovenia. I always get them mixed up. I blame them for having almost the same name and almost the same flag. And then we've got Sunday Times here. Labour eyes up Green Belt for building Blitz, which is bullshit from the Sunday Times. Although the Sunday Times is now backing Labour as of midnight last night. So, okay, I don't know where to go with this, but they're not going to build on the Green Belt. They're going to build on brownfield sites. That's the plan. But they do want to stop local objections being all coming along and making it very difficult to build anything because people want to make their house price go up. Up. What are you doing to the house to make it worth more? Absolutely nothing. So why should it be worth like twice as much as it was a few years ago? I don't know. I just think that that's fair. Not to the people who don't own a house, it's not. Right, okay, so I've got to warn you, right? This gets really mad very quickly, okay? I'm going to scroll down. We've got, obviously, the Mirror, sensibly saying 14 years of Tory chaos. Should we go through the headlines in the Mirror here? We've got our loved ones died while number 10 parties. What cost a living crisis? Staggering £100 billion of Tory waste, Tory donors, tycoons. 4.5 million paid to destroy PPE. Home Office probes racist staff WhatsApp group. Boris's £58,000 wallpaper boss is a Tory donor. NHS staff sell days off to pay bills. The loneliest goodbye. That's over in the corner there. It says the loneliest goodbye. I don't think you get the pointer on here. No, you don't. Okay. Partygate tape. Sunak's cop to cop out. Cummings broke lockdown twice. The Tories can't even govern themselves. Now Rab avoids travel rules. Pretty breaks rules again. Home sex, sick date, rape, drug joke. You know, there's so much of it. You kind of forget some of this, don't you? The absolute scumbags. Pretty breaks law in another asylum scandal. Tories are rigging rules on elections. Barefaced cheek of Boris Johnson. There you go. They're all the headlines. But let's look at the loony press for a moment. And I'm talking today about the Telegraph above me and also the Express and the Mail, which I'll come to in a moment. Labour will bankrupt every generation, warns Sunak. Every generation, the Victorian generation, the Edwardian generation, the Tudor. Are they gonna be bankrupted? Every generation in every country. I mean, they're gonna bankrupt the greatest generation, the silent generation. They're gonna bankrupt the boomer generation. They're gonna bankrupt the Generation Z. I mean, they're pretty already much bankrupt because they're never gonna get a step on the housing ladder with these Tories in charge who just want number go up when it comes to house prices, which means that young people are trying to save £50,000 for a deposit. It's never going to happen. And by the time they've saved that £50,000, it'll probably be £100,000. So good luck with that. So let's move on. Starmer to wreck Britain in 100 days. This is the front cover of the Express. And it's the same on the Mail as well. I mean, how desperate is this? It's gloriously desperate. It's tastily desperate. This is a bit tasty because you can feel the desperation. You can taste it. It's palpable, the desperation of these papers because they know that the gravy train is coming off the rails. They know the gravy train is about to crash head on into a cliff face because they are they're out. You know, these client journalists who all went to school with the Tories who are in charge. They're not going to have mates who they went to school with and played soggy biscuit with in charge of the country anymore. So they'll have no leverage over the incoming Starmer government, mostly because it is going to be one of the most working class governments in history. In history, probably the most working class government in history. Someone should check that out. But it's compared with the Tories, who had 67% of the cabinet, of the Tory cabinet, went to private school. Daily Star now. How the hell can we lose now? It's about football. The Observer, which is the Guardian on Sundays. Starmer's promise to voters, I will relight the fire of optimism. That's nice. And then the Mail. There's the shrill, nutty, crazy words of the Mail. This is again, going back to the 100 days things. 4 days to stop supermajority. There's no such thing as a supermajority in the UK. You only need a majority of one to change the constitution. Having more than one does not affect anything that you can do at all, right? It just doesn't. Except you might not have to compromise so much on certain bills, but you've got a 3-line whip if you really want to get something through anyway. That exists. If people don't go along with it, you kick them out of the party. They lose all of their party privileges. most people go along with it. Most people go along with the three-line whip. Okay, so PM urges voters not to give Labour a blank cheque. A blank cheque. Why would they have a blank cheque? Like, they've got the opposite of a blank cheque because of the absolute number the Tories have done on the economy. Our GDP per capita, that rose by 100%. It doubled between 97 and 2007. It has now gone down by 10% over the last 17 years. It's gone down. GDP per capita measured in US dollars, not British pounds, because obviously inflation makes that, a little bit difficult to work out. But in US dollars, over 17 years, we have not only seen no increase per capita in our GDP, we've actually seen a decrease, thanks to the Tory government. Rishi warning, Starmer will wreck Britain in just 100 days. Tax hikes, an amnesty for illegal immigrants. It's like a malfunctioning robot. Its arms flailing wildly, going, danger, Will Robinson, tax, immigrants, tax, immigrants, as its head explodes with fizzes and bangs. And then it just sort of keels over, falls to the ground. God, it's going to be so satisfying to. I say wake up on Friday morning. I'm going to sleep. We're going to be there from 9 till 9 at night till 9 in the morning, following all the election coverage. Well, probably 7 in the morning, but we're going to be there. So please join us on July the 4th to watch the end of the Tory party. I can't wait. Right. Anyway, back to Nigel Farage. Is he a Russian asset? I wish I had a magic 8-ball. I'd shake it up and I'd be like, the signs point to affirmative. The Tories want to build on Greenbelt between Gloucester and Cheltenham. They do. Katrina Tam, I wish house owners would realise the actual value of the house is never going to change. What's changing is the value of money. Yep. So money is becoming worth less and everything's becoming more expensive. That's why a pint of beer, it costs twice as much as it did in 2010. That's why no one can get, prescriptions. You can't get prescriptions. And again, going back to Farage and Boris Johnson and all these horrible little millionaire, privately educated creeps, if you want to see the full list of these creeps and other people who are quite, arguably quite talented, but got a leg up in the industry because of their connections that they made in school, head over to privateschoolmafia.com. If you have not seen it already, you will defecate your pants. Put it that way. So they can afford to get their prescriptions flown in from Switzerland on a private jet if they need to. They can afford to fly to Switzerland to get their prescriptions for whatever they need. They can pay for the drugs. They don't have to go through the NHS. They don't have to wait. They don't have to set something up with their friends, an emergency WhatsApp group with your friends around the country to get you the medicine that you need to stay alive because we've got such a medicine shortage because of Brexit. Brexit doesn't affect the rich. I can't say this enough. Brexit only affects the working class. And even if you look down onto the lowest rung of this, okay, to say what is the thing that is upsetting most people about Brexit at the moment, and it's the checks on fruit and veg coming in. If you're rich enough, you can import your own fruit and veg, to be honest with you. But also queues in the getting your passport stamped, queues getting into the airport. Okay, if you're rich, you can fast track. Doesn't affect you. Again, nothing Brexit does in reality affects you if you're rich. You can move your money offshore. You can move it to a tax haven in the Cayman Islands. You can build yourself a double Dublin Amsterdam ham sandwich if you want with your tax affairs. So you don't pay any tax if you are rich. The rest of us, the highest taxed in history right now because of this Tory incompetence and because of Brexit. That Nigel Farage foisted on this country because he wants it to fail. Because, like Putin, he wants it to fail. He wants Europe to fail. He wants Britain to fail. If you were really someone who is a patriot, you would want GB Energy. You would want us to create our own fuel on these islands. You would not want to be in hock, in the thrall of Vladimir Putin or the leaders of Qatar or Saudi Arabia or the United Arab Emirates. You know, those places where they get slaves to build buildings. Yeah, I don't want to be giving them money. Nigel Farage doesn't want British Rail or British Railways to be owned by the Brits. He wants them owned by other people in other countries, so his friends, shareholders, wherever they might be, make money. So that we're subsidising the travel plans of people in Germany, in France, in the Netherlands. That's nice of us, isn't it? In Canada. That's lovely of us. Imagine doing that. Imagine having to spend £160, 170. Now, Jesus, it's more than that. It's £160 it is now. At least £80 each way. You can't get a return anymore. To London from Durham. £160. I think I've flown to Australia for less than that. One way, but, and it was China Eastern, so it was a bit of a flight. Wow. But yeah, still Australia or London, the capital city. It's not like I'm trying to go to some little crazy place in the middle of nowhere. Not on some branch line. This is on the East Coast main line from Durham. Wow. Anyway, Greenbelt. Devon is 95% green FFS. Could probably add Cornwall and Somerset to that too. House prices have risen above inflation though, so homeowners have become richer comparatively. Tim, that you're absolutely right. Nice if you own a home. A bit shit for the rest of us who don't. North, red. When Labour get into government and open the books, I believe it's going to be breathtaking. There are going to be so many things Labour don't know about. Any wonder so many Tories are doing a run at. Yeah, North, red. I completely agree. Over 130 medicines are on the shortest list. The thing that annoys me most is being trapped in the country going nowhere. Purity vendetta. Absolutely. 100%. I wish I could give you a super chat for that message. Pure logic. One issue I have with GB Energy. If you're looking for investment, who will be the investors? Foreign countries. Yes. Unfortunately, yeah. But foreign direct investment has gone off a cliff in this country. It's decreased by over 90% since 2016. Since that effing vote. That the gams are like, yay, we're so British now. We can stand on our own 2 feet. The investment is not there. And British billionaires, millionaires, they don't want to invest in this country. They're not interested. They want to invest in other countries. But yeah, so it does look like we'll need some investment coming in from abroad to start up this company. But you know what? If the company is British and there's no shareholders and we, the British people, get to benefit from the profits made by that company because it's a British company based in Britain, run by the government, I'm up for that. I'm very much up for that. I think the profits from the trains, from the water, from the gas, from the national grid, electricity, everything should be funneled back into those industries and funneled back to us, the people of the United Kingdom, of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Simple as that. Remember what you said, restrict supply and increase costs. Well, that's the plan, isn't it, Tim? And well done for winning the quiz last night, mate. I know you didn't really win it, but you're getting a mug anyway. And Anuska, thank you very much, so much for the super chat. That's really kind. Graham, can you please explain what the Lexiters want? I don't know. Putin to win? That I talk to people, and this is serious, all right? And I know I can get kind of excited about stuff. But I spoke to people before the 2019 election, and this is when I was very active in the Remain campaign. I was organising marches and rallies. I was doing the Three Blokes in the Pub podcast. I travelled all around Europe. I went to the WTO. I went to visit the government of Gibraltar. I went to Luxembourg. I went to France, to Germany. I went to Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. And I was very, very active. And I got talking to some Lexiteers who, this is genuinely what they wanted. They wanted Britain to fail because they thought that if the Tories made such a bad job of running the country, then that would allow their particular messiah, the person that they had put, filled this empty vessel with their hopes and dreams, that would propel him into power. Or them into power, but you know what I'm talking about. And that was their way of making their leader, their unpopular leader, popular. That was their plan right there. It honestly beggars belief that was their plan. but they got what they wanted. Britain is in such a state now, thanks to the Tories' situation, that, we're going to have a near revolution, a glorious revolution by the end of next week. Although, when you play with fire, you get burnt. You don't always get the outcome that you wanted. This Faustian pact that they made with each other to say, let's try and ruin Britain so that our people get in. We can have a revolution. Okay, yeah, great. But it's not their guy, is it? It's a guy that they hate more than the Tories. So that blew up in their face, didn't it? But a lot of them fell for the propaganda of the EU being a capitalist club or a mechanized Frankenstein. I can't remember who said that. Those words about the EU, a mechanized Frankenstein. I can't remember quite who was it who said the day after the referendum result came through that we should be activating Article 50 immediately without any amendments, without any provisos for British citizens living in the EU or EU citizens living here, all 5 million of them, it turns out, who didn't get a vote in the referendum, but if you're a Commonwealth citizen, you did. So if you're from Tuvalu in the Pacific Ocean, you got to vote on the future rights of EU citizens living in this country. You got to, like everyone who voted for Brexit, you got to rip up families. You got to tear families apart and send the dad off or the mum off back where they came from. And they'll say, oh, but I didn't mean you, but you did. They did. They all did. It wasn't enough for them to be happy, owning a house in this current climate, having a nice family, having kids, whatever dreams they had, it wasn't enough, never enough for these people because no one was suffering. They needed people to suffer. They needed families to be torn apart, and that's why they voted for Brexit. And that goes for the Lexiters too, and I will never forgive them for it. If you want forgiveness for the cons, go listen to James O'Brien all day long. No forgiveness for me. If you voted for Brexit, knowing what you can say that you were bamboozled, you say you were conned, but I feel like with my country at the moment, it is like having an alcoholic dad who gambled the entire house on the horses and lost, and now their family is homeless, living in a shitty hostel with cockroaches climbing the wall, and there's nothing we can do about it. And you still got to say, well, he's my dad. I still love him. He's my dad. But at the same time, there is a seething hatred for what he did. And that's how I feel about Brexit, to be honest with you. I just think the people who voted for it, how dare they rip up those families? How dare they force people to leave this country and become Zoom mums or Zoom dads, seeing their children once every few months when they're allowed into this country. And then what do the Tories do? They push up the cost of having a foreign spouse for you. Not for them, but for you. From 18,600 that you have to be earning a year, which is cruel and unfair, and doesn't include self-employed people like myself, because we don't know how much we're going to earn in a year. It doesn't include contract people because it's not a wage. You've got to be on a wage. You've got to be a slave to the wage, and then you can marry someone from another country and have them live here in this country with you. And no longer can you go and live in their country, no questions asked if they're from the EU, because we pulled out of the EU. The carnage that the Brexiters have left in their wake it's almost unfathomable. Unfathomable. But it's there. I'll spit it out and tell everyone who listen. And there's nothing we can do about it now for the next few years. The die is cast. The cruelty is done. And we're just left to clean up the mess that the Tories have left behind the best we can. And we've got to do it together. So on that note, we'll be doing a special show of how we fix Britain tonight. I'll be joined by Paul Somerville. And we're going to be talking bots, the rise of artificial intelligence, AI, or fancy predictive text, as I like to call it, and its effect on society and elections going forward. So if you want to watch that, if you want to take part in that discussion, that's 8 o'clock tonight, How We Fix Britain, episode 4 with me and Paul Somerville. Orion Does Things. Thank you very much for that, my friend. So many of my fellow lefties complain Labour isn't radical enough. I keep having to explain that they have to be electable. Yeah. Yes. And this is my problem with Biden, okay? Biden is not electable. And I said this about the previous leader of Labour at the time. time and time again to anyone who will listen, he is not electable. There was a news story on one of those lefty sites that was, the headline was, "Think Jeremy Corbyn is unelectable, ? Think again." And after the 2019 election, they actually changed the headline of that article. They changed it as if it never happened. They never said that he was electable. That was something they never said. In order to win power, you have to appeal to the centre ground. You have to not only get your own people on board. Don't worry about the wingnuts. You will never, ever, ever satisfy them. Don't even bother. Which is what one thing I like about Starmer. He's like, look, this is our party. If you don't like it, see you later. And also, you have to not spook the other side. So David Cameron did this in 2010. He managed not to spook the other side enough that people turned out enough to vote for Labour. And conversely, the previous leader of the opposition spooked the Conservative voters the hell out so much that they turned out in massive numbers not to vote for the Conservatives necessarily, but to vote against Labour, which was a vote for the Conservatives. The left field at Glastonbury was buzzing, says Moonfest Madness. Yeah, I would have liked to have gone to Glastonbury just for the buzz, but I didn't even try to get a ticket on the resale this year because I didn't know there was going to be an election, and I heard that super chat. It's like super chats on the mind. I had that Coldplay were playing, and they're not my favourite band. Alec Barrett, £2 super chat. The Lexiters remain unforgiven. Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing, right? I know there are still people who every day get up and try to make it was a scam or some other supporters of the previous leader of Labour trend on Twitter. Okay, here's the thing: in February 2017, the previous leader of Labour put in a 3-line whip for his MPs to vote with the Conservatives for the flagship Conservative policy that he knew would make the poorest people in this country even poorer. He knew it would cause shortages of not just food and drink and commodities, but medicines. He knew that it would plunge even more children into poverty. And yet, his MPs weren't told to abstain. They weren't told to vote against this flagship Tory policy of cruelty. It was a 3-line whip. So when people go, oh, he was wonderful, he was the Messiah, he was such a lovely man, I say no. And if he loses on Thursday night, I think that is going to be more satisfying, if you believe this, than watching Rees-Mogg lose. For me, anyway. For me, personally. Have a personal beef. Because we organised those rallies, we organised those marches, we organised those events, and we begged for the leader of the opposition to come and march with us, to join us on the stage. Keir Starmer did. Jess Phillips did. Tom Watson did. Luciana Berger did. And Louise Ellman, the 2 Jewish MPs that left the Labour Party, left the Labour Party, left their Labour MP-ness behind, as a result of the leader of the opposition, not at the time, not doing anything about anti-Semitism. They joined us. Did the leader? Did he? Did he join us fighting against the Tory flagship policy that we knew would make poor, hard-working families even poorer and force them to work even harder, make them iller, make the children shorter, make it so that we can't have children because we can't afford to have children, make it so we can't afford to get houses, we can't afford to get cars, we can't afford to take public transport. You've got 2 choices. Either he's so thick he didn't realise that would happen, or he's so nasty he thought, yeah, it's worth it. Because, I don't know, do we deserve punishment because, unlike him, we didn't go to a private prep school? I don't know. But I'll have it out with any fan of his any day over this, because I don't think he was the Messiah. I don't think he was even a naughty boy. I think the guy is absolute scum, to be honest with you. And if you don't like that, feel free to find a channel that's up his arse so far that they can see the future. There are a few of them. Anyway, so there you go. Ben Riddings, the previous leader of the opposition, is no different to Farage, as much of a grifter as Farage. I don't disagree. The pathway to rejoining is going to be a long one. The EU won't let us back for a while, says David. Yes. I know I've done a bumper show this morning, but you got no James O'Brien to go to after the show, so I feel less bad. But yeah, to come to this point about the pathway back to the EU, we will be talking about this in a future episode of How We Fix Britain with Mike Galsworthy, who is the leader of the European movement. We've got to be practical about it. We need the Tories. I know it sounds a horrible thing to say, but we need to get the Conservative voters on board with the idea that Brexit was an absolute disaster and we need to rejoin the EU. Until that happens, we can't rejoin the EU. And there's two ways it can happen. One is that their lives are going to become so uncomfortable and so crap that they will say, oh my God, what did we do there? That's very unlikely, as the vast majority of people who voted to leave the EU were house owners, older people. They're doing all right, Jack. They've got no mortgage to pay each month. A half of their wage. They've got massive pensions. I mean, there are 1 in 5 pensioners are millionaires, while another 1 in 5 are living in poverty. But you can guess which way the millionaires all voted. I don't know that's because of the house prices going up, but still, they're millionaires. And a lot of them are on final salary pensions that allow them to buy a new car every 6 months. Or go on a cruise every year. And you know how expensive they are. You're going to upset Owen if you carry on shit talking his dear leader, says Joe Lefty Boater. Yeah, good. I put it on Twitter. I put a poll up saying who's going to be more upset on Friday morning. Is it going to be Rishi Sunak or Owen Jones? And actually, Owen Jones won the poll. So there you go. Make of that what you will. But Labour's explicit ruling out of the single market, which was an arbitrary decision by 2 former Tory PMs rather than Brexit, is still absurd, says Nick. Yes, but, okay, right. I'm not claiming any special insider knowledge of what's going on here, but I'm just putting 2 and 2 together. I hope I don't look like the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with me board behind me making all these connections. So really simple connections. So we know that Labour... We know that Starmer and David Lammy have had various meetings with their EU counterparts over the last couple of years, right? And we know that Macron has suggested that there is going to be an outer orbit. They could create an outer orbit of the EU with 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's not going to be the single market. It's going to be a little bit like the single market. It's going to allow the free flow of certain goods and commodities, but without the free flow of people, etc. This is for countries like Moldova and Ukraine and Bosnia-Herzegovina and Serbia and Albania that want to join the EU. They're trying to join the EU, but the EU is like, we don't really want these countries joining us right now. I don't think they're ready to join. They don't meet the Copenhagen criteria. But we could make an outer orbit of the EU and call it the special market. So when Labour say we're not going to rejoin the single market, at least not in the next parliament, that's not stopping them from joining whatever Macron and other EU leaders decide to put together to allow Ukraine better access to EU markets, but also allow the UK to get 1 foot back in the EU without explicitly saying we're going to rejoin the single market. The reason why they're saying they're not going to rejoin the single market, as far as I'm aware, is because they don't want the tabloid press, who are currently going tax, 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 immigration, 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 to be going, they're going to take us back into the EU. Every time it's mentioned, the Labour politicians have been told, Lammy, Angela Rayner, Keir Starmer, they're all under strict instructions, obviously, to just shut that shit down. We're not going to rejoin. We're not going to rejoin the single market. We're not going to rejoin the customs union. End of. But we can still join the outer orbit of the EU. That doesn't exist yet, but it will. So watch this space. I might be wrong. If I am wrong, I will buy a hat with that will say on the front of it, I was wrong and I accept responsibility. Okay, that'll be written on the top of my hat and I'll wear it for an entire show. But I don't think I am. Wait, is this Sunday? Yay, more morning brew. Yes, Godmill. We're having a little bit extra because it's only 4 days that I have election. Exciting stuff. Purity Vendetta. All I want is my freedom of movement back. I hate living in the UK. Bad food, bad weather, and stupid people making most of present company excluded. I can never trust a UK government or the electorate again. Yeah, can't trust people. They buy Coldplay records and voted for the Nazis, as the great philosopher Superhands once said. Any solutions that don't involve reciprocal freedom of movement for people as well as goods and services will still leave most people stuck with a hard Brexit on a personal level. Yes, Nick, you're absolutely right about that. But it's a step in the right direction. It is a step closer to the EU, and hopefully it will stop these shortages of goods and commodities and medicine coming into the UK, which is killing people at the moment. The Tories just love killing people. I don't want to spoil the show for people who haven't seen it, but there's a show that came out last year called The Fall of the House of Usher, based on Edgar Allan Poe's books, not just The Fall of the House of Usher, but all of his short stories and poems and things like that. And there's a scene in it where the patriarch of the family is given a vision of the people that he has killed through his actions. And it's a very powerful way of just showing how many, because of that line from Stalin, or attributed to Stalin, 1 death is a tragedy, 1 million is a statistic. How do you show the scale of the bloodlust, the carnage that these people have shown? And I thought that they did a very good and horrifying representation, visual representation of what I think these Tories should be forced to see for what they've done, for the 250 people who are dying every week in A&E, and the people dying because they're not getting their medicine, and the people taking their own lives because they're not getting the treatment that they need and that they deserve, and the people living in poverty, the people living on the streets, the people trapped in abusive relationships because if they leave, they'll lose everything. This is the world that the Tories have created, and I will repeat this line until the last of them is in jail. It doesn't affect them. Nothing they do affects them. Except when it does, when they have to pitch in, when they have to wear a mask, when they have to lock down, they freak the fuck out. You saw them. Julia Hartless-Brewer, Lawrence Fox. Lawrence Fox went to Harrow. Went to a school, I think it's £50,000 a year now to go to Harrow. He went to that school, got expelled because he's a shitbag, but he went to that school. And he's like, what? These laws apply to me? To me? Dominic Cummings went to Durham High School for Boys. I think that's about £30,000 a year now. Me? The rules apply to me. I'm not allowed to hotbox my small child in a car and drive to Durham, take my wife out on her birthday to a local beauty spot. I'm not allowed to do that. Oh, I'll show them. Farage, all the anti-vaxxers, the posh anti-vaxxers. What? I have to get vaccinated as well for the good of society. Oh, sod that. This is who these people are. Great line. I've forgotten who said it. But when people show you who they are the first time, believe them. Yeah, Piers Corbyn says, Colin Baker, indeed. Jay says, with the previous leader of the opposition, it's all about him. He voted against the party a number of times. Previous leader of the opposition first, party second. And Purity, I plan my entire future around selling up and going back to the mainland. I only came here to look after my elderly parents, and now I'm trapped in a zombie country in a steep managed decline. Purity, I'm really sorry to hear that. In a way, we're all trapped together, and I wish I could have some kind words to say, but I'm in the same boat as you. I was living in the Caribbean, and I came home to look after my dad, who's still with us, thank God. But his dementia is so advanced, he's just in bed all day. He's been on palliative care for 4 years now, almost. And the fact that the Tories don't give a shit about him or me or my family. They don't give a shit about any of us. We're not useful for them. They don't see the use in us. We're just surplus to requirements as far as they're concerned. All they care about is, I don't know, getting off on destitution and pain and suffering. Thank God, in 4 days' time, we get to vote these out. Now, please vote tactically. Okay, go to stopthetories.vote. Find out what your tactical vote is. Get the Tory out. If that means holding your nose and voting for Labour or for the Lib Dems or for the Greens, I don't care. Just get the Tory out wherever you are. Get them out. And tell all your friends and neighbours, please vote these vile reptiles out of office. It's the most important thing possibly that we'll ever do in our lives, is to make sure that these absolute motherfuckers are out of office for a very, very long time. And yeah, we've got Farage on the horizon, but we'll fight that battle when we get to it. Right now, this week, we have one important thing to do, and that is to vote, and vote these disgusting fuck pigs out of office forever. I'm sorry, Graham. I lost my dad to dementia caused by diabetes. I'm really sorry to hear that, Sarah. My dad's got vascular dementia caused by he had heart problems, and basically for the last 10 years or whatever, he's had slightly too little oxygen getting to his brain, and dementia is one of the worst because you lose them twice. You lose the person that they were, and then eventually you lose them, and there's no going back. And there's always that hope of one day they might just, spark up, recognize you, say your name again, But yeah, it's a very, very, very cruel disease. It's a very cruel way to go. However, a few years ago, I was talking to a nurse who works in palliative care, and she said to me, when you get to that age, there's two ways you can go. You can either be completely compos mentis, know exactly what's happening, and be in vast amounts of pain, and be on drugs to try and alleviate that suffering, or once you get to palliative care, or you can be like your dad. You can be away with the fairies, just chuckling away to yourself, not knowing what the hell's going on. And she said, I'd rather be like your dad when it comes to it. And I was like, oh yeah, I suppose, but I think it's arguably worse on the people around the person, but at least the person themselves, I just imagine he thinks he's really drunk. It's just he's three sheets to the wind, as they say. Katrina, I'm so sorry, Graham. My mum is a psych ward, is in a psych ward for the second time in a year after a third breakdown. So now you feel, yeah, it's really shit. Purity says, my dad was diagnosed with melanoma during lockdown. It was a nightmare. I want Labour to at least acknowledge that 48% of us voted to remain and are totally ignored. I'm sorry to hear about your dad. Purity, I don't think that they're ignoring us. And I know this may sound like I'm just smoking a big pipe of copium here, but I think they're doing what they need to do to get elected in this environment. When the Daily Mail and the Express and the Telegraph and all their readers are being told to freak out over tax hikes and an amnesty for illegal migrants and taxes. They don't need to give these scumbags any more ammunition. I'm hoping Labour are under-promising and are going to overperform. That's my hope. That's what keeps me going. Because otherwise I will just be in the depths of despair right now. But let's just enjoy the fact that the Tories are going to be out in a few days' time. Bumper episode today. We're going over an hour. Phil says, my grandma died of ovarian cancer, but her dementia, as awful as it was, meant she didn't really know what was happening. Yeah. It's a weird thing, isn't it? Joanna Hammond, personally, if I ever get full dementia, I don't even know I exist as me anymore. I'd rather be terminated. I'm already dead at that point. Yeah, Joanna. Well, look, I think we should have assisted dying if people want it. I feel your pain, Graham. Dementia took my mother, says Uncle Heavy. Yeah, it's shit. It's really, really shit. But let's end on a positive note, eh? The Tories are going to be out on their ear. Come Friday, we are not going to be under a Tory government after 14 years of cruelty, sadism, and mismanagement of every aspect of life in this country. The Tories are going to be out. And who knows, maybe Rishi Sunak will lose in his constituency. It looks like Rees-Mogg will lose in his constituency. And so many others that I just hate will be out of a job and hopefully just not employable ever again. Oh, wow. Thank you, Yorosh. Yorosh has just dropped in a very, very generous €50 super chat. Thank you so much for that, Yorosh. I'm sorry, Graham. I lost my dad at the start of the year and the last few months were very bad. Went from a lucid person to well. He was 91. So it was his time, but it's still hard. Yeah. Well, with my dad, I mean, he was the smartest guy I knew. I mean, we argued about politics a lot, but he was the only person who could consistently beat me on Trivial Pursuit. If I ever took him to a pub quiz, we would win. And to see someone who is that sharp as an absolute tack, his retrieval was just remarkable. And his working knowledge was incredible. He was a guy who could literally take an engine apart in a car and put it back together again, which is amazing. And he lived his life. You know, he was a racing driver. He was president of Aintree Circuit Club in Liverpool. Aintree was where they used to run the Grand Prix every other year in the 1950s and the early 60s. It used to alternate between Aintree and Liverpool and the Aintree Circuit, which is in the same place as the horse racing track where they have the Grand National, but there's a circuit there. You know, he learned to fly. he did all this stuff. He took us on a camper van around Europe, which is where I got my love of travel from, and maps and camping and roughing it and visiting new countries. And yeah, to see that man who always had a joke for every occasion, a man who could make or break a party, as my auntie once described him, reduced to someone who doesn't even know what day it is, someone who doesn't know who you are anymore, is particularly cruel. And that's hopefully, you know, if we for a moment stopped our billionaires spending money on shite, spending money on yachts, spending money on sending people to outer space for no reason whatsoever, if they concentrated on finding cures for the different cancers that humans are affected by, the different dementia, Parkinson's, all this kind of stuff, then we could get rid of it. We've got the money. We've got the money to feed everyone on the planet. This is a point made in The Fall of the House of Usher, which I really, really recommend if you like horror stuff. If you don't like horror stuff, don't watch it. It'll give you nightmares for life. Sarah says, Graham, I'm so nervous. It's all going to go wrong. Hold the line, Sarah. It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. Okay. The Tories, they can't come back from this. Surely they are 20 points behind, and they've been consistently 20 points behind. And none of these stunts that Rishi Sunak has done anything but make them even more unpopular. People are sick and tired of the Tories, and they are on their way out. Uncle Heavy, I'm looking forward to a brave new world on Friday. It will be a weight lifted from the shoulders of all of us. Since the Brexit referendum, I have had this pressing down on my chest of grief. It feels like grief for my family, for my friends, for my country. And I'm hoping that feeling is going to alleviate just a little bit, like it did when the election was announced. Like, can we get back to living our lives? That'll be a fine thing. Glad you clarified about the racetrack at Aintree. I wondered how the race cars would cope with Beech's book. Yeah, there was a circuit there. There still is, but it got reduced because they extended the stand. But Aintree Circuit Club is still a thing, and my dad is still the honorary president of it. Little fact fans. He's also called Graham Hughes. My mum went through what your dad's going through in her final months. I like to think she got a glimpse of her feisty, mischievous child she was. Yeah, Livingstone. I agree. My dad's. You still see the sparkle in his eye, and you still get a chuckle from time to time, and that sounds good. Hi Graham. I'm planning on buying your book when I get to Waterstones. You'll have to order it, Katrina. It's not on the shelves at Waterstones, but yeah, you can order it. It's got an ISBN number. It's a proper book. So yeah, if you want to order it, you can do. And thank you for boycotting Amazon because they're evil. Anyway, look, thank you so much for watching. Bumper episode this morning. I'm off to have some breakfast. Yeah, like I say, awesome. 4 days till the election, 4 days till we get to vote the Tories out of office. Thank you so much to the chats. Thank you for the super chats. It's really kind of you, especially your boss there with the €50. Thank you. I will put it to good use, believe me. We've still got some tickets left for the event on Thursday, and people have written to me and bought tickets for other people. So if you want a free ticket, literally just write to me. Get a free ticket for the event on Thursday. We are having an election night watch party in person in Vauxhall in London at the Fire Club. It's going to go on from 9 p.m. till 3 a.m. We can help you with getting there if you live in London. Get the train there and then the night bus home or whatever you need to do. And we can also buy you a couple of drinks if you turn up. So please get in touch with me at grahamdavidhughes.com. There is a form at the bottom of the page to get in touch with me, and I'll sort that out for you. And thanks to everyone who has contributed for tickets for people who are on low incomes or can't afford to go to something like this normally. I will be doing live stream from 9 o'clock till 9 o'clock at night till probably about 7 o'clock in the morning from the venue, and then I'll be moving to a nearby Airbnb at 3 o'clock to continue the stream through the night. So if you would like to join us for that, you are very, very welcome to do so. It's going to be a night to remember, and I hope, hopefully if Sunak loses his seat, and it'll be about 4 o'clock that his result will come in from Richmond and Northallerton in North Yorkshire, and when it does, it will be one of those, were you still up for Sunak? If it happens, fingers crossed. It might not. We'll see. They have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to put him in the bin. It's a green bin. That's why it disappeared. So I'm going to be back tonight at 8 o'clock for a special edition of How We Fix Britain, where we're going to be talking about social media, AI, bots, and its effect on democracy and what we can do about it. So please join us for that discussion. We'd love to hear what you have to say. So 8 o'clock tonight, please join us for that. If you can't, see you in the morning. Another episode of Morning Brew at 9:30 in the morning. So there you go. Okay, thanks to everyone in the chat. Thanks for everyone for being really supportive of me and each other. Life throws you these curveballs, and it's good to know that there's a community here that we've built together that care about each other and are thinking of each other, and that really means a lot to me. So thank you for joining us and for staying with us. Like I say, we'll be back at 8 o'clock tonight, and give us a like on the way out, I guess. Feed the algorithm. But until next time, I'll say again, thank you. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, genuinely thank you. And I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.